Well, I don't have a whole lot of time left for this hat or any other Miami Heat hat, but that's either very good news or very bad news for those of you that had Miami heading into the playoffs here. But the good news is they got one opportunity left to try and face those Boston Celtics. Bad news is they're going to have to do it without the one and only Jimmy Butler. But we got two guys here that are going to help us navigate through the crap that is left here. It almost feels like, what's the difference? Like, whatever. Go ahead, Chicago. Enjoy yourself. Let's see how that works out for you. Not bitter at all, given the fact that Miami probably should have won that game, but they didn't last night, Steve Merril. What was your takeaway from that Heat Sixers game last night? Hey, listen, great teams cover. Right, there he is. Great teams cover.
Scared me.
Didn't necessarily win, but they certainly covered when it mattered the most.
God, for a brief second there, I felt so athletic and powerful. And now it's back. I did not mean to wear my Miami Heat shirt today, but I guess I wore the burgundy. I think they have a chance tomorrow, but like you said, Joe, what does it matter? I mean, first of all, Butler's out. He's probably going to miss some of the games next week if they do make it. And then all of a sudden they're playing the Boston Celtics. And what's so painful is not only did they blow a double-digit lead, a game they easily could have won last night, but they would have had the New York Knicks instead. So, yeah, the whole season kind of went down the drain within a matter of minutes last night, or any chance of making a run like they did last year. Keep them on the play-in round all the way to the finals, as you know, a year ago, but I don't see that happening again. As far as the game on Friday night, it's winnable. The Bulls are still a below 500 team. And as long as Kobe doesn't have, 42 points, then I think they can win this one. But, yeah, there he is. Now that's an afro. I wish I could have done that. I don't think I maybe could have done it, but it would have taken years of work and a lot of dedication. And I just, I don't say I'd give up on things, but I would have given up on that.
Let me just be the first person to say that if you can pull, I would love to see you just try to pull that hairstyle off there, Merril. That might be the most fun we've had in a long time there, Veno. If we look at that, and we do have pictures of Merril with some quality fro going on there.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
Outstanding stuff. We have it, and we'll play it for you without a doubt. Veno, you were on the NBA Tip-Off Show yesterday. You were all about the over. I think we were all, me, you, Andy, all of us were all, listen, it's got to be over in Miami. We like the over in the Bulls and Atlanta game. I don't think that was much of a sweat at all. What were your takeaways from that game last night, besides Atlanta being a G League team?
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe, because I actually watched the post-game conference, and Quinn Snyder, he either looked like a guy who knew he's going to get fired and he's second now, or he looked like a guy who just wants to get the hell out of Atlanta and that roster. Something's got to give, because he wasn't, and I know it's heat of the battle and they get to you quick with questions, but he just did not look like even his encouragement of the team sounded a little bit like, just get me out of here. But we'll see. They did the right thing for us, because certainly the game provided us more than enough points. Like you say, it was never a sweat job there, unlike, playing Miami's team total over 101.5 and having 101 with 0.3 of a second left, screaming for Haywood Highsmith to just dunk the basketball. Instead, he throws it out to the 3-point line, and Tyler Hero does the job for us. But it'll make you a little nervous. You talked about the Miami injury. Chicago got one of their own, right? Andre Drummond, not only does he steal guys' dunks, but he steps on their feet and puts them out of the playoffs for a while. So Alex Caruso, certainly a big part of that Chicago team, which won't be present. So that's an interesting game there, Bulls and Heat. That's one where you'd almost look to Miami's got a little bit more fortitude, let's say, and I would trust Eric Spoelstra over Billy Donovan. Haven't made a play on it yet, but considering the injuries, maybe the Jimmy Butler thing is eased up a little bit by the fact that Caruso won't be involved.
But listen, it's been without a doubt and Merril, we've talked about it. Both of us have talked about this on the NBA Tip-Off Show all year long. The overreactions to a guy, and we're not talking about a best-of-7 series. We're talking about a one game here. And we've already seen Miami have more than enough without Jimmy Butler to get by a bottom feeder like Chicago. So the idea, I get it sucks, but Miami is home. Miami's got way more experience. And I can't imagine, Merril, having a ticket and be like, oh, it's got to be Chicago now because Butler's out. That's exactly the time you want to back Miami. It's always been the time you wanted to back Miami when everyone's like, nope, they can't win. Hey, Boston's a different story, but Chicago, they can win this game without Jimmy Butler.
Sure, no question about it. I mean, this is the NCAA tournament. These are one and done scenarios. You have to win to advance, and then you have to keep winning after that. And we talked about that the last few nights. And 3-point variance often decides those one and done NCAA tournament games. And we're going to talk about the Kings Pelicans in a moment, but the Kings were plus 24 from 3-point range against the Warriors. Guess what? They won by 24. That was the difference on Tuesday night in that upset win. I will point out that Miami has the better 3-point offense and the better 3-point defense, and they're at home. So if 3-point randomness does come into play, that'll help them here. Not having Butler is a blow offensively, but if you look at the defensive numbers this year, on and off the court, it's been almost net neutral. They're about 7 points weaker per 100 possessions without him offensively, but they're only half a point weaker defensively. So the under made some sense to me. Obviously, Miami slows things down. Chicago has played slower at times. I don't read much into the over. Yesterday, we all liked the over in that Atlanta game. The Hawks are a terrible defensive team. But the odds makers have really done their job here. I mean, this total is even lower than I thought they might price it. So you're right, Joe. We always see these overreactions. And unfortunately, in this case, I think it's taken away some value with the under, perhaps.
I'm shocked. Yeah, I am kind of shocked, that he even came back into the game. But all I was thinking last night after Oubre somehow landed on him and fell. And by the way, even if they win this game, it doesn't look like he'll be available for the Boston series one way or the other. But all I could think about is just please, Miami, lose this game because the number should be what? 3.5, 4 for Miami. If Jimmy Butler's available, is that about what you would have put it at?
Absolutely. And Joe, let's not skip over the fact that Terry Rozier could be back tomorrow. Yes. And so, those neck spasms are only questionable now. And if Terry Rozier goes, all of a sudden you lose Caruso on one side and Butler, okay, but then Rozier comes back, which is a big deal.
Yep.
It's exactly why Miami got Terry Rozier for situations like this. So like you guys both said, in a one-game setting, if Terry Rozier does go, this line compensation, I'm just looking here now at the currents, Joe, 209.5 opener as far as total is concerned, down to 205.5, 4 points taken off. I guess for Jimmy and Caruso, maybe nothing factored back in for the possibility of Rozier playing. Again, I'm always a guy who feels like Miami offensively is undervalued. They may find me there tomorrow. We'll see. But you can't skip over the fact that Terry Rozier could go here.
That's a great point, Veno. And Merril, it's also one that's a question because if there are folks joining us and watching us right now here live on this Thursday edition of the NBA Tip-Off Show, welcome you in, by the way. Hit that subscribe button and like button if you could. But if you're hitting us up on a replay, we'd love to know what are your thoughts on this game? Can Miami win this game without Jimmy Butler? It's a pick-em price. And Merril, if I like Miami, should I be running now, or do you think this might even creep up to more than a bucket?
So I took a look at the advanced kind of public numbers today. I did a standalone video, which is actually on WagerTalk TV now, a deep dive into both of these games for Friday. I'll be doing that for every day of the NBA playoffs for the next 2 months, analyzing all the games on a daily basis. And we do have some public sentiment in the next game we'll talk about. I'll save that as a spoiler, a little bit of a teaser. I don't want to be a spoiler. It's a teaser, not a spoiler. If I gave it out now, it would be a spoiler. So the Kings and Pelicans, there is some public data, but I thought they were pretty neutral, at least what I looked at early on in this game. The public is funny. I think they do read into these star players. And like you said, Joe, they blindly adjust to several baskets, even though it hasn't been working. And I think that's because people still bet like it works. I agree with you and Rob. This line would have been at least 3 to 4 points. I mean, first of all, Miami's the better team. They had the better scoring margin. You got to give them a couple points for home court. So it's easily 3, if not 4, with Butler. So they have bumped this down a full basket. And as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, the total's been bumped down because my initial lean, and I still do lean under just from the handicap, would be under, but it opened 209.5 and it's already 205.5. And just using some raw math, because Rob Veno loves when I talk math. You look at the teams this season. I mean, Miami on average was a low scoring team, but they weren't this low scoring. I mean, I think they were like 218 on average, which is about 10 points below the league average. And then you look at the Bulls, they were 226, which is actually only 2 points below. So that would get you to like 216. You bump it a few baskets for the playoffs. I get that. Say 212, 211. So now they're bumping it another 3 baskets because of Butler. And, they've actually been a better defensive team at times without him, or at least net neutral. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty low total. It's hard to play an over in an elimination game, but they're pricing it like it should.
Yeah, no, it actually, Jave's saying he saw the game open up at -3 before we saw anything to do with Jimmy Butler when we woke up this morning and heard that he, in all likelihood, is out this game and probably a few more games after that. But that is going to be one half of the game, like Merrill said there. Still got another play-in game here, but it's amazing, Rob Veno, how similar these two series are, right? You got Miami, the better team, the higher seed, who lost their star player. We have New Orleans, the higher seed, the better team during the season. They lost their star player. It shouldn't be a shock, I guess, that they're both very similar. Don't pull a hammy there, Zion. Don't pull a hammy. Keep standing. Get some ice on that thing. But he's not coming back anytime soon either here, And again, the same applies, does it not, with New Orleans here? Brandon Ingram, it should be mentioned that he's also, they say, in much better shape now because he's been working his way back because he missed that time. But they think healthy Brandon Ingram could be enough to get past Sacramento. What do you think?
Well, let's start with the fact, if we're talking side, that New Orleans is 5-0 against this team this year. And 4 of those wins are by 10 plus. Not all of them are with Zion. Not all of them are with Zion even contributing heavily. But, Joe, we just talked about these drops. And this is not public money that pushes a total from 218.5 to 211 well before the game is even about to tip. Public money comes the day of the game. So, again, we have these injury chasers who have dropped this total by 7.5 points in some instances as we speak, solely because Zion's not playing. Now, the other side's had their issues too, right? We've talked about them for 2 weeks. No Kevin Huerter, no Malik Monk. Those guys still aren't coming through the door. But Sacramento has played without these guys for some time now. I have to go through some numbers here, Joe, because the phrase we've used on this show since its inception as maybe our most recognized phrase is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this total is 212. Are you kidding me? I'm just going to start with some things like this. These teams just played last week, April 11th in Sacramento. Not everything was on the line because it wasn't the final game of the year, but they were both highly motivated to get that 6th seed. Neither one of them wanted to be in the play-in. They both ended up in the play-in. In that game, Joe, Brandon Ingram didn't play. That game had 258 points, 135 to 123. Yep. Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter didn't play. She got 3 big scores, not involved, 258. January 7th, these two teams play. Zion doesn't play in that game. He's not going to play tomorrow either. Zion doesn't play. De'Aaron Fox scores 3 points, goes 1 for 10 from the floor. The game lands on 233, 133 to 100. You go back one more, December the 4th. Zion plays, but he stinks. He scores 10 points. The game totals 244. So my point here is the circumstances haven't mattered in this series. Every single game has gotten to 222 or better. The games actually have averaged 237 plus. And now we're going to push this thing down 7.5 points because, oh my God, Zion pulled a hamstring. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. These two teams play a certain style. You go through these games and you'll find that New Orleans has shot 54.6% in 5 games, average 54.6 from the field against this defense. And again, not every game was with Brandon Ingram. Not every game was with Zion. And then the other side of that coin is that the pace has been there in every single one. So I think what happens, Joe, real quick, is you watch Pelicans Lakers, right? And it's kind of, the Lakers are such a different team from Sacramento because obviously Anthony Davis patrols the middle. Sabonis doesn't patrol it that way. This game gets more open court. De'Aaron Fox has had a big 5 games against his team, other than the one that I mentioned where he only scored 3. I don't know. You know me. I love these types of situations, and over 211, 211 and a half just seems going with what has been done 5 times this year. And why not make it 6? I'm not going to fix it if it's not broke.
So true here. Merrill, how much does recency bias play into it, you think, with the market here? Because I think Vino's right. They what they just watched there with the Lakers, and now that's carrying well over into this matchup here. We thought it would be too, the market obviously thought some unders last night. That didn't happen here. How much does recency bias play into this, you think?
The Kings are now 17-4 under their last 21 games. How crazy is that? So this is obviously a situation which maybe they need to start adjusting to lower. They sure haven't been adjusting it too low recently because the Kings have gone under 17 of their last 21 games. But this is a huge adjustment. And it wasn't just a blind adjustment either from that 218.5. If you look at the WagerTalk live odds screen, you can click on the history of every sports book. It was a slow tick, a point here, a couple hours later, a point here. It was like a one-day process to go from 218 down to 211. So they weren't just resetting it when Zion was out. The betting market, like Rob said, the early, I don't know if we call it sharp money because the injury chasers haven't made money the last couple of years, but it is being bet based on injury information. And as Rob also said, it's much lower than the recent meetings. And that December 4th game, they played 5 times, of course, because the December 4th game was the quarterfinals for the in-season tournament. I don't know how serious the teams are taking it, but, we can maybe read a little bit into playoff intensity. And that game still had 244 points. The total was 238.5 for that game. And as Rob said, Zion had only 10 points. He did not play well. Brandon Ingram, though, had a good game. He had 30 points. He took 20 shot attempts. Zion only took 8 shot attempts, 5 for 8, only 27 minutes. He did have 3 personal fouls, but I don't recall maybe if he had some kind of injury in that game, but it sure would look like he wasn't fully there, taking just 8 shot attempts. Ingram took 20 once again and scored 30 points. So, yes, they definitely could win this game. Also, the public play that I teased earlier is on Sacramento. They look to be the most public side of either game so far on Friday. So we are fading the public a little bit. And we're getting the better team as a home dog. I wish this game was in Sacramento because then we'd be getting a couple more points. And New Orleans actually was a better road team this year. But as Brian Power pointed out earlier this week, I think New Orleans had the 6th best point differential in the entire league this year, and they still finished. They didn't finish top 6 in their own conference. So they're an underrated team. When Zion is out, by the way, if you look at the per 100 possessions, offensively they're actually a point better without him, a point and a half better, and defensively they're 4 points better. Now, I'm not going to say Zion doesn't matter. He's a superstar. He had 40 points in that game the other night, but they have learned to play without him. He played less than half the minutes last year by far, missed the entire season before that. And they're also 7-5 straight up this year when he doesn't play at all. So they are a live underdog here. And this is one of those cases where I think, Joe, the line has been adjusted too much based on an injury.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the overall theme here with these final 2 play-in games coming up here tomorrow. And then the big question is, and I always like to ask myself here at this point, what would James Harden do if we had to know? Oh, there he is, James. What would you do here? Oh, he'd get swept by Dallas. Apparently, is what we're hearing there. But let me ask you a question because I think we can all understand that. Listen, Miami, Chicago, Boston's awaiting. That should be pretty interesting. But is there a better matchup here, Rob Vino, to you when it comes to either Sacramento or New Orleans against the number 1 in SGA and company here in Oklahoma City? Is there a matchup you think actually favors OKC in this one?
I think they're good with either, Joe, right? Because they're getting a banged up team in either fashion. You're getting a team that lacks a couple of wings, which Oklahoma City happens to be loaded with athletic wings. And when you don't have Monk and Huerter, it's going to hurt you a little bit. And certainly the Zion injury on the other side takes away what you would want to have against OKC. You would want to have interior size, a bully type like Zion, because they're not all that big. So, yeah, I think both actually help OKC out. Would they prefer one or the other? I would say that's a tough question because Sacramento certainly remembers last year, got a taste of it last year, and will be motivated. And New Orleans got a taste of it last year, and they're used to playing without Zion as Steve said. So I don't know that either one's better, but I would favor Oklahoma City in both. I just don't know that there's enough bodies on the other side to handle OKC. And OKC, for what it's worth, I know that their overall numbers look really good, but they play defense in spurts this year. When they really want to lock down, like they did at the end of the season to get that number 1 seed, they're a good defensive team, which Sacramento really isn't. We know Mike Brown's been begging that team to play defense for 2 years. They can't. And New Orleans, they don't like quickness. I mean, I'll just revert back to that game last week at Sacramento, 258 points up and down the floor. They have a huge rebounding edge against Sacramento, so they win that game. But I don't know that they're going to like 7 games. Well, maybe it doesn't even go 7, but I don't know that they'll like the pace that Oklahoma City is going to play at.
Yeah, well, it's they're saying in the chat too. Ave saying that OKC's issue is with the glass, so the better rebounding team will certainly give them some fits here at Merrill. Also, Titan CT says Harden is at Areolas right now. I'm not sure what that means. But what do you think there? What do you think, Merrill? If it must be, it sounds like a really upscale. Sounds like an upscale place to me. What do you think it is the better matchup here going forward? Who would you rather see? Would it be Sacramento to go in there, or do you think that OKC doesn't make a difference? OKC, like Boston, is going to handle business one way or the other.
Thought Rob Veno was wearing James Harden pasties there for a second. I'm very interested by that. I know there's no defense at Areolas. If James Harden is there is no defense and lots of traveling. You have to travel far to get there, apparently, by Uber. It's interesting because I think New Orleans coming into the postseason was one of the most dangerous, underrated teams. I go back to the fact they had the 6th best margin in the league, and they weren't even a top 6 seed. They're also one of the best road teams in the league. A lot of things you need to win in the playoffs. Also good defense. Had the superstar. There are other guys getting healthy, and Ingram, their other star. But, yeah, all bets are off until we know about Zion, although they have learned to play without him. And I still think Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't want to say they're a phony 1 seed, but they're a very vulnerable 1 seed. And I point back to Tuesday when I did the video for the first day of the play-in games, and a lot of the viewers were commenting, and I love the comments, by the way. I read them all. I reply back, including this show. Several people were saying, do the Lakers tank to avoid having to play Denver sooner, being the 7th seed? And I don't think you can do that because you're playing with fire. You got to win just to get in. But it wouldn't be the most unfortunate thing for either New Orleans or Sacramento to get Oklahoma City instead of Denver/Minnesota for a couple rounds. So, yeah, I think both of these teams could cause some trouble for OKC, although both obviously have their flaws and injuries, like Rob said.
Yeah, so we got the Heat crew is now showing up in the chat room. We've got a couple of questions. Chris Lawrence in there. He's definitely going Heat in the house, man. That was they got it done here. That is for sure. Big shout out, by the way, to Instagram going on here. ATH Pick says he agrees that OKC, it doesn't make a difference. Much like Boston, that OKC is going to send everybody packing anyway. It's not going to matter one way or the other. Michael Cruz has a question there. Who won the makeup game between KC and CWS? Not sure if it was game 1 or game 2 yesterday. Kansas City won the first one and the White Sox won the second one, if I'm not mistaken. I had Singer in the first one, and I know they won 4-2, and I think the White Sox held on for a 2-1 win last night there, Michael. I hope that clarifies it for you. I know because I had to cover the game. Let me ask you this here, guys, as well as the Heat fans are piling up. S. Warrior in the house. I'll give you 3 guesses where he's going. What is, you think? I think it was 17 first-round sweeps we've had over the last 10 playoff seasons, right? 17. So almost two a year here, Merrill, coming up. How many do we get this year? I mean, how can we legit see 2, 3 teams getting swept here? Or do you think parity is alive and well in the NBA and there ain't no way we're getting any sweeps here in this first round?
Yeah, you definitely think we get less of them nowadays just due to load management and just the mindset of these NBA teams that they're just never serious for 4 straight games at all. It's very hard to turn it on, turn it off. Obviously, the Celtics are a powerhouse team, and if they get a shorthanded Miami team or definitely get the Bulls, I think that probably will be a sweep. Miami's a feisty team. They're a veteran team, though. The Bulls I could see getting swept by Boston. And as far as the West was so competitive this year. I mean, the fact that New Orleans and the Lakers were in the 7 and 8 spots, and then you get the Clippers and Mavericks playing each other in the first round. These are all teams that can make a lot of noise when healthy. That I would say 2 at most, just for that reason. I think the league average probably holds up this year.
All right, so that's why our chat rooms are phenomenal. And we hope you guys hit that like button, give us that thumbs up. We appreciate it. It has just been announced that it looks like Rozier has been ruled out for tomorrow.
Okay.
So we will not have Rozier. We will not have Jimmy Butler. I'm also seeing that the thought process is if the Bulls are the ones that advance to the Celtics, it's going 6 and there won't be any blowouts. I don't know. I'm not sure I can wrap my head around that one. But I will say this here, Vino. If there are going to be, and over the last 10 years, we've had almost 2 in the first round. How many do you think here? I think we get 1, and I would almost bet that maybe the Celtics would be the one team to be able to run through it.
Yeah, I'd agree, Joe, because you'd have to come with the theory that the Lakers are going to get swept, which I don't know that can they win one game against the Nuggets? Of course they can win one game. The other number 1 seed, Oklahoma City, we just talked about it. Can Sacramento or New Orleans win one game? Of course they can. And when you look at the prices, outside of that Denver line, these prices for series are so low. It just shows you the competitiveness between all these things. Cleveland, I guess, would be the next highest that's actually posted right now because we're waiting on Boston and OKC, which are going to be prohibitive favorites, especially Boston. But Cleveland only at $2. So we've got a lot of competitive matchups here. It's hard to think that anything other than Boston, Chicago could be a sweep. Boston, Miami could be as well, especially if the Rozier and Butler dual injury continues all the way through. That could be tough for Miami. So, yeah, that's the only one I'm looking at that where I could honestly say I would play a sweep would be the Boston series.
Starting to see 2s popping up here, Merril. Are you seeing that on the WagerTalk live odds page as well with this Miami and Rozier not being in? Or, again, do we get at least a bucket here? Can we get to 3, you think, before tip-off? Should we hold off those wanting to back Miami with no Rozier here?
Yeah, I would definitely be surprised we get to a 3. We're seeing 1.5s across the board, but some of the sharper books are juicing at 1.5 minus 115. So it looks like we're getting closer to a -2, like you said. If you like the Bulls, I would wait. You should be able to find a 2. If you like Miami, you probably want to lock up the -1.5 now. On the WagerTalk live odds screen, also, if you scroll down, they do have the series prices that Rob was just referencing for all 6 of the known matchups with 2 pending still. And in 4 of those 6, $1.40 or less favorites, which equates to about a 56% chance of winning, which means the dog has almost a 45% chance of winning in 4 of the 6 series so far. Yet another reason why we aren't likely to see many more sweeps. Something else I want to point out is Oklahoma City, the number 1 seed. Remember, just a couple years ago, they were the best point spread team in the NBA for like 2 years running. They were covering, but not always winning. Guess who that team's been the last couple years now, an up-and-coming team? It's the Orlando Magic. I don't necessarily like Orlando in that matchup against Cleveland. I think Cleveland gets it done. But Orlando could be a team to keep an eye on next year and the following year because we have seen OKC go from being a point spread darling to now a number 1 seed. It seems like Orlando's on that same path.
We got a lot of problems with we got half a side with Lakers. We got half a side. We've got some comments where if the Lakers get swept, LeBron's got to retire. There's nothing else to talk about at this point. Instagram, however, is all over the Lakers winning the series, and you heard it here first. So we will hold Instagram accountable if that actually happens there. Also, there is now questions as far as whether there's Ski, man, hanging out with LeBron. It looks like they might know a little something here. But also, let me tell you, there's some questions about Duncan Robinson now just appearing as well, where maybe he, too, could be a question mark. If I don't get Duncan Robinson, I don't get Rozier. We know Jimmy's already out. My goodness, hold off if you're thinking about Miami because this line will go over a bucket here, Vino, if Duncan's not in either, no?
Yeah, it becomes an issue at that point, Joe. Three of those guys out if you're trying to play Miami.
Mm.
And again, it's not that Miami's unaccustomed to playing without multiple guys. They do it all the time. It's why their season statistics are so hard to kind of sift through when you get to playoff time. But I'll say this, where the Bulls are concerned, Joe, if I just mention Alex Caruso to you off the top of your head, you tell me, well, he's their best defender. That's what we know Alex
Great
Caruso
hair.
as. So
Great
a
hair.
great
No, that's not him.
place
No.
keeping. The rest of these Bulls don't play a heck of a lot of defense. So
No.
it almost makes you wonder if, Hero and Caleb Martin and Bam, if you get into some sort of a up and down contest, can they handle their own against this team? Probably so. Chicago, again, heading into last night's game, they were the 18th fastest tempo team over the course of the last 15 games, which sounds high for the Bulls. Last night didn't hurt that number any. And again, it's the 18th time in the last 26 games that the Bulls have given up over 109 points. That's almost 70% of the time. Last 26 games, the Bulls are giving up 110. So, and they did it again last night. So before, I guess you sit here and watch, and maybe this total ticks down far enough to where you have to say, you know what, you got to play this thing over. Kobe White said something interesting last night in his post game, guys. And they asked him, because he had 42 points last night, and will he have 42 tomorrow? Probably not. But he said that head coach Billy Donovan told him, take that ball, go downhill, collapse the defense, and do what you do. And he said that's the way he likes to play. He's the primary ball handler now. The Bulls have speeded it up. 205 is a very, very low number in the modern day NBA to not consider playing over.
Especially if it's going to be close, right? We're going to get hackathon. We're going to get a ton of free throws. Quite honestly, some of the best comments so far this NBA season in the chat room. Here, we've got to recognize and send a shout out to Siren, who says about the Instagram love for the Lakers and them winning the series against Denver. He says Instagram with some midday drinking, apparently. Also, very, very good point there. And we also have, and Chris might have the comment of the year saying they might as well get Haslam suited up if everybody's out
well,
of this thing. And that is not far off here, my man. Titan CT also holding Mavs plus 730 to win the West in his pocket. I don't have a problem with that. We're also being told D Wade is on line 2. If he still fits into the jersey, is what they're saying. So there's a lot of solutions here for the Miami Heat, but Instagram with midday drinking almost killed me. I'm not going to lie there. Is there, guys, and don't forget, just a big shout out to those of you guys hanging out in the chat rooms here today. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up. Give yourselves a thumbs up, damn it. That was absolutely outstanding here. So we don't think there's going to be a ton of sweeps. My question to you guys here before we get out of here is, what is the one series where, I don't know, how many dogs are going to actually win a series here in this first round? Is it a minimum of one, or is it more than one, Merrill, if you're thinking, or does round one go as chalky as ass and all of these dogs are saying, see you later?
Well, I mean, for the 6 series right now, the dog has a 45% chance or better of winning. So we're going to see some dogs win mathematically. By the way, if you check the WagerTalk live odds screen, right in the last couple of minutes, 2 of the sharpest books just got money on the New York Knicks to win the series. They're up to minus 120, 125, whereas the Vegas market is minus 110. And I would assume the public is probably going to be on Philly as well. So might have a little bit of a sharp square divide on a series price. Not something I talk a lot about, but the Knicks just got a little bit of sharp money. And also the Mavericks are a $1.40 favorite at some spots against the Clippers. They're favored everywhere, heavier in the public book. So the Clippers are a little bit of the sharp side there. I think just a value play. But if Dallas does get by in that series, they catch a real break, I think, with Oklahoma City, a very beatable 1 seed. And it guarantees that 3 of these 4 teams will be eliminated. Lakers, Denver, Phoenix, Minnesota. They would only have to play one of them after OKC to win that conference. So, yeah, it's 7-1. I think that's probably as good as any value. I don't think there's usually value with any of the futures, but I think Dallas could definitely be a dangerous dog.
I'm with you. I mean, I think there's going to be more than their fair share, Vino, in round number one. 45% mathematically is going to get us a couple of them here, but it just feels like there's not a whole lot separating some of these teams. Usually you look at it and you'll be like, it's probably going to be pretty chalky with some of these teams that have no business being here. But my goodness, it feels like the dogs could very well be barking a lot in this playoff series coming up.
Yeah, there's potential for even 5 if you wanted to throw Orlando in there, right? You could say that Orlando has a legit shot against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Philly-New York series, Steve referred to it as a sharp square divide potentially. It's probably more of a Philadelphia, South Jersey, New York crime family divide. Which one of those mob groups has more money to move in? We'll see if the Philly guys come with their money next. That's also it hinges so much on Joel Embiid, right, guys? I mean, he doesn't look right to me. I don't know if he is or isn't. I live right here in the area. They don't give a lot away. But if he's good to go, that's a good basketball team that could win that series. But I don't know that he's good to go. I would think, I have a little bit, and this has been a bad series matchup for the Minnesota Timberwolves against Phoenix. But I do think Minnesota has a really good chance with home floor advantage of taking out Phoenix. I just don't. To me, there's too many times where Phoenix can appear too soft. And Minnesota's anything but soft. Phoenix got shot makers, but I think that could be one. I do think Indiana, and it's hard to make the case for Milwaukee if Giannis misses any more than 2 games. He would have to be back by game 3 and be back in really good shape to take out Indiana. Indiana's destroyed that team all season long, right? I think that was the game where they took Giannis's 64-point basketball, right, and ran into the locker room and gave it to their kids. So I think Indiana's Indiana's live. And the Clippers, I guess, you know what? Luka just loves to play the Clippers. Destroys that team ever since.
There he is.
He's walking into it. I mean, they've got him. They've got playoff P. They've got all these guys that never succeed. And Luka's got a long history with that team ever since. They tried to rough him up a few years back. So I think that Dallas might get away with that one. But I think you're right. So 2 to 3, and I agree with Steve too. Maybe 2 to 3 dogs have a really legitimate shot of getting there.
Yeah, I think there's opportunities here in some of these series prices to back the dogs. Certainly some of these game prices, I think, as we move on, because there will be a handful of teams that no matter if they lose a game or two, I doubt very much, Merril, the public is going to jump ship on them, including the likes of Denver, I think, and Boston as a couple. Embiid sandbagging the other night, FB coach saying there, so he's kind of doing the, my leg. Look, oh, damn. He is not looking sharp, but he doesn't really have to be. It wouldn't surprise me in the least bit here. Steve Merril told you also that he's got not 1 but 2 in-depth breakdowns on these games coming up tomorrow night. You can check those out. The links in the description will take you right to those videos. Rob, Vino, what do you got rolling here tonight as we get ready for a big Friday, and then, of course, let the games begin on Saturday?
Yeah, I do have a 4% best bet up and available for one of these NBA playoff games already. As we, with today off, you get a chance to look ahead and get stuff up early. So I do have one up there. The totals, if I can, Joe, just real quick, have been absolutely amazing for me so far this season. And if I just go back about 16, 17 days to the start of the month, we're up over 50 units of profit on NBA totals. So the totals have hit 76% over that course of time. Been a really good run. It's what I do best. So if you're looking to join in for an NBA playoff package, now probably the perfect time. We're red hot where that stuff is concerned. And we have one available right now, as I mentioned, 4% best bet up and available on my page, WagerTalk.com.
All right, love it there, Vino and Merril. You two, a couple of MLB games here tonight. Merril, are you invested in any, or is everything ready for tomorrow night for you?
Yeah, there's 2 games now. I'm covering both of them. I've got one of them as a free play, so you can get that right now on my page completely free. And then I've got the late night TV game as a special $15 best bet, especially discounted price for Thursday. It's a very light baseball card. Put one of them up for free, and I put a discounted price on the other one because there is no NBA tonight. But I do have an advanced game 1 selection for Saturday. I do really like one of the matchups we know about already for Saturday. That is locked and loaded right now, nice and early. So you can get all of those single as always. Or check out the 10-day special, which is still available. No promo code needed. Works out to less than $10 a day for every baseball and basketball best bet for the next week and a half. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Awesome stuff there. But once again, guys, you don't have to go too far to be able to get all the NBA playoffs and play-in information you need. All you have to do is click on the video on your screen right now and then come back and join us again tomorrow for the Friday edition of the NBA Tip-Off Show here on Wager Talk TV. Hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Guys in the chat room, ladies, we will see you again. And stop the drinking, the day drinking on Instagram. All right, stop it. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Good luck, guys.